Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we continue with our Tafsir of Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 102. We started this verse last week. We got up to first couple of lines. We'll continue inshallah. And the translation of the verse is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they followed what the shayateen gave out in the lifetime of Sulaiman alayhi salam. Sulaiman alayhi salam did not disbelieve, but the shayateen, they are the ones who disbelieved, teaching men magic and such things that came down at Babil, translated as Babylon, to the two angels Harut and Marut. But neither of these two angels taught anyone till they said, "We are for a trial, so disbelieve not." And from these people learned that by which they call separation between man and his wife. But they could not harm anyone except by Allah's leave. And they learned that which harms them and profits them not. And indeed, they knew that the buyers of it, i.e. the magic, would have no share in the hereafter. And how bad indeed was that for which they sold their own selves, own nafs, if they but knew. So this is the translation of the verse, and the subject is around magic and the effects of magic and what people did with magic. But it's connected to the previous verses in the sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already said, we discussed last week, that again and again different ways that some of Bani Israel were rejecting the message, the ayah, the proofs, the evidences of the truth of the Qur'an and the truth of the messengership of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we learned in the previous verse that one of the ways was, what did they do? They used to, whenever the truth comes, a group of them, whenever the truth comes from a messenger, they would ignore it. When it didn't meet their own desires, when it didn't go their way, they would ignore it. Literally, the Qur'an says they would throw it behind their backs and they would ignore the truth, the revelation. Once you do that, what do you rely on? Once you ignore revelation, once you take the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala away as your source of guidance, what is it that they were replacing it with? One of the things that they were replacing it with was sihr, or the writings that they had related to magic, related to this occult or dark science, if you like. This is one of the ways in which they replaced revelation, forgot about revelation, but concentrated on other things. And there's a reason why they did that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discusses the ruling of the one who does that, the end of the people who do that, and He discusses also the nature of magic itself. So the first thing to say is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they followed what the shayateen gave out in the lifetime of Sulaiman alayhi salam. وَمَا كَفَرَ سُلَيْمَانُ وَلَكِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ كَفَرُوا. So it's very clear that a group of them, they followed what was being recited by the shayateen at the time or before. There's difference of opinions, but what was being recited in the period of the kingdom of Sulaiman alayhi salam. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes something very clear here, that Sulaiman alayhi salam, he did not lose faith. وَمَا كَفَرَ سُلَيْمَانَ. He's not the one who disbelieved. We explained last week, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this clear? Because one of the claims of Bani Israel, or some of them, was that indeed it was Sulaiman alayhi salam himself who was using magic. And how did they arrive at this? We'll come to this a bit later. The way they arrived at this conclusion is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to something that the shayateen, whether these devils are from jinn or ins, whether they're from the jinn or mankind, there is something that these shayateen used to recite. What used to happen is, one opinion is that the shayateen, they used to, during the time of the Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, and beforehand, they used to ascend to heaven. They used to access, they used to go, jinns especially, they can travel different places. They used to travel to the lowest heaven. And then what used to happen is they would eavesdrop on conversations of the angels, who would be discussing about sometimes what will occur on the earth, about death or incidences or any other matters of the unseen, ghaib. They will bring this news back down and then add many, many falsehoods with the truth. So they used to say, with one truth, they add 70 lies. And then they reveal this to some of the soothsayers, some of the fortune tellers, some of the magicians. So they would collect all of this together and convey it as though they have knowledge of the unseen. They have knowledge of the angels, what the angels are discussing. They have knowledge of qadr, what will happen tomorrow, what will happen to this person, when will this person die, how will this person die. They will mix up all of this and claim they have this pure knowledge of the future, of destiny itself. So this is what they used to recite from the shayateen. This is what the Qur'an verse is referring to. What then happens is that some of the people used to record these sayings from the angels, right? Some of the people who used to recite, they used to learn, hear it, and write it down. They collected it into small books. Some of these chants, incantations, whatever words were being used, right, for magic and for this information. Then they said that these books, if you like, or these writings, Sulaiman alayhi salam, he collected all of these books and he confiscated it from the people. Any such writings related to magic, he took it away from the people because it was haram, it was kufr. So he took it off the people, he hid it beneath his throne. This is one opinion. He hid it beneath his throne and that's where it stayed until his death. And he made it clear to the people that magic, sihr, this kind of thing is kufr, is haram. And that's how it stayed. The ulama of the time from Bani Israel, they knew this. They followed this command of Sulaiman alayhi salam. But what happens is, after he passes away, and the ulama of the time, after they pass away, so this knowledge that sihr, magic is haram, is kufr, it goes against the deen, this knowledge was lost. And what a group of them do is that some people say a shaitan came in the form of a man. He came to Bani Israel, some of them after the death of Sulaiman alayhi salam, after the death of the ulama of Bani Israel of that period. A shaitan came in the form of a man. And he said, I will show you, I have a secret to a treasure. I will show you the keys to what will lead you to the power of the kingdom of Sulaiman alayhi salam. I can show you how Sulaiman alayhi salam had so much power. Because as we know, he had the kingdom given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He could command the jinns to work for him. He had lots of people working for him, amongst them jinn as well. He could communicate with the birds. He could travel. He had so many miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. He had a kingdom of such might and power which nobody else had. So this shaitan, who's dressed in the form of a man or comes in the form of a man, he promises this group of people that I can lead you to the secret. There's something hidden, it's a treasure, and it will give you the keys, the secret to the power and kingdom of Sulaiman alayhi salam himself. So they go, they dig. So he says, you need to go there and dig under the throne. When Sulaiman alayhi salam put this under the throne, they say that he made a dua around it so that any shaitan who comes, he will be burnt. They cannot access these writings. But human beings wouldn't be burnt. They could access it. So they go, shaitan tells them, you go there, I can't go any further. You need to go and dig, you'll find it. And this is how they rediscover these books. And in it is, charms, incantations, formulas, basically sihr, magic, different formulas, how to do magic for different things. Sulaiman alayhi salam, they claimed, the shaitan who was in this form of a man, he said, this is all the knowledge that you need. And look, why did Sulaiman alayhi salam bury under his throne? It means he controlled all of you lot with this magic. And this is what these people start believing. A group of them, not all of them, a group of them. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes clear that وَمَا كَفَرَ سُلَيْمَانُ وَلَكِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ كَفَرُوا. That it's not Sulaiman, he is the one who took the magic off them and hid it. He confiscated it, he made it haram, he told them of the kufr of this, and he protected his people. It's not him who did this, but it was falsely ascribed to him that this is how he had so much power. This is how he ruled. This is how he controlled the jinn. This is how he controlled the animals. This is how he controlled the wind. It's through these writings of sihr. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues that وَمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَى الْمَلَكَيْنِ بِبَابِيلَ هَارُوتَ وَمَارُوتَ. That they were teaching the people, the shayateen were teaching the people this kufr, the sihr, and also that which was revealed or that which was sent to the two angels, malakain. The majority of people say malakain. Bibabil, Babil is a place, most people say, most of the mufassirun say this is a place in ancient Iraq, Babylon, translated in English known as Babylon. Most of the mufassirun say this. There are some difference of opinion, it's in different lands. And the two angels, they say, names are Harut and Marut. Now there's a lot of discussion that who were these two angels? How comes they were teaching, was magic revealed on them? Did they actually teach magic? Why would they do that? If they're angels, why are they teaching people magic? So there's lots of questions around that. But there's lots of issues arising out of this whole magic issue. So first of all, the definition of magic, of sihr. What is the definition? What are we talking about? Are we talking about someone who can make buildings disappear? Are we talking about someone who can, through magic, turn a human into an animal and vice versa? What are we talking about? In the definition of sihr, the mufassirun say there's mainly 3 or 4 types of things that fall under the definition of magic itself. The first one is not really sihr. They call it sihr, but it's not really sihr. Sihr in Arabic, it actually means to illusion or to delude somebody or to trick somebody. That's sihr. To do something which deceives somebody, right? You do something in a way, it deceives them. They think something is truthful or something is as it appears, but it's not really. And linguistically, that's basically what it means. But technically includes, number one, a type of magic which is really related to do with a sleight of hand, as they say in English. So it's not really magic. There's no chant or formula. There's no incantations. It's just somebody's good with their hand. You see card tricks. You see people changing, bringing something out of a handkerchief or something. It's really fast movement of the hand. It's an illusion, as they say. They are deceiving you with the quick movement of their hands. That's all it is. It's not any magic potion and magic formulas. It's not that kind of magic. So that's the first level. It's just somebody who's quick with their hands. They can do tricks. They learn these tricks, and a lot of people do this. This is by far the most, if you like, widespread type of magic tricks that you see these days. People performing on shows, on TV, or whatever you see. Most of this is nothing supernatural. It's very logical, it's explainable, there's a way they do it, they get trained, and they do that. The second type of magic or sihr is something to do with actual imagination and illusion. So this is where the magician can actually do something, and the crowd who are watching or seeing or observing or who are present, they will see something that is not true. The magician has a power to affect their perception, to affect what they see. But it will only be effective around, whoever's close by, not everybody. It will be according to who's present. So he has an audience. He can show something. Physically, actually, there's nothing there. Physically, there's nothing there. Physically, nothing changes. This person might take paper and change it into money, right? But physically, in actual reality, it's still paper. It's not money. But the people who are present, their eyes, their sight, their vision, their perception will be tampered with due to something the magician recites, due to something he reads, due to something he's done, whichever way he does it. So this is playing around with your perception, what you see, how you view something. This is also a type of magic. But the thing here is nothing's really changing. This magician, physically, he's not changing anything. This magician is not physically changing anything. He's affecting how you see the thing. Good example is, which is not magic, it's just reality. In the desert, a mirage. When you look, you will see water. It's as though it's water, but in reality, it's not. It's because of the heat coming up from the sand and the way it looks to you, it appears though it's water. And you imagine it and you believe it, but it's not actually water. So exactly the same way, obviously in the first example there's no magic there, but here, through magic, you will see it, you will imagine it according to what the magician wants to make you see. But this is very temporary. They cannot make this last. It's not permanent. They can't make this last forever. It's very short term, couple of minutes, couple of seconds, whatever, it comes and goes. But nothing physical changes. The third type are charms and incantation, formulas, reading things that actually has an effect on people's mind and body. So by this method, it's not about imagining something, that you're seeing something. It's about an effect taking place on a person on whom magic has been done. So in this situation, the magician is actually doing something to the person that affects him either mentally in his mind, he starts imagining things, he or she could start hearing things, or it has an effect, a kind of effect on the body. It could be illness, it could be feeling, physically exhausted, it could be, it could be any different effects on the body. So this is the third type. The fourth type of magic is where there's actually a change in physical reality, right? The magician changes the physical reality of something. Now, the first three that I talked about, the first one isn't really magic, it's just trick, which I said with the sleight of hand is trickery, it's just some type of training or skill that someone acquires. So leave that one out. But the second and third, the illusion, and the third, the charms and incantations, formulas to affect someone's, maybe in some way affect their mind and body, to some extent, in a limited way. These two, there's not much disagreement on. Most scholars agree that this occurs, this is possible, this is a true effect of magic. And they also agree, the vast majority, that whoever practices these two, they have committed kufr. Because to do these two types of magic, you're going to have to commit kufr in terms of what you have to recite, in terms of what you have to do, in terms of maybe communicating with the jinn, or worshipping shaitan, or saying something against the Qur'an, against Allah, or just committing shirk or anything. These two types, anyone who practices this commits an act of kufr. It takes him out the deen. This is the vast majority of scholars who've said this. It's almost, especially amongst Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, there's more or less an overall agreement on that. Those who practice this second and third type. With the fourth type, there's ikhtilaf. Some people say this is not possible. A magician cannot change the physical reality of something. The fourth type, where somebody claims to be a magician, physically changes this glass of water into a glass of orange juice or something physical, or changes this into a phone. A physical change, actual physical change takes place. There's a lot of disagreement here. A lot of people say this is not possible. This is not possible through magic. All the magic is limited to the first three, or second and third types, which is illusion, and secondly is some kind of charm or incantation that affects the mind or body in some way. So the fourth one, there's ikhtilaf in that, because also the fourth one kind of also goes against if a magician was able to physically change things, they don't have to do TV shows, or they don't have to do performances. They could just change anything into money, be wealthy, live happily ever after. They can get anything they want. They can change water into gold. They can change, they can have everything they desire. Why would they be going around performing tricks or working for someone or taking money to perform magic? So a lot of people say this is not possible. Changing a physical reality is not possible. To change a physical thing into something else which is not possible on behalf or from the viewpoint of magicians' powers. But the problem is here on the definitions, there are those like the Mu'tazila, they don't believe in, they say all of it is simply illusion. Magic, all of magic is either sleight of hand, a trick, or illusion. It has no effect on people. There's no physical effect on people. So this is the Mu'tazila. And unfortunately, you may hear debates today on social media about reality of certain things, jinn, or even magic. Unfortunately, there are some people promoting this view too. The view of the Mu'tazila. Mu'tazila are a group who are not part of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. It's a sect. They had certain beliefs that go against the mainstream Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But unfortunately today, there are some people who are promoting this view. Mu'tazila, their main, if you like, the foundation is to do with anything that goes against reason. We can't believe in it. Anything that doesn't fit our rational mind, logic, we can't explain it, we can't understand it, it can't be true. They try and use a lot of, they give a lot of credence to logic and the rational mind over revelation. So they say revelation has to fit logic and rational mind, etc. So because of that, unfortunately, there are some, I've seen people promoting this view that, magic has no effect at all. And not only that, sometimes ridiculing that, look, no wonder non-Muslims and atheists, they make fun of you. How can you believe in magic? That's fairy tale, that's fantasy. No, but the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah are agreed, sihr is reality, it's real. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about it in the Qur'an? Why would you commit kufr over something that's not real? Why would it be an act of kufr that makes you leave Islam if the thing itself, there's no reality to it? So just be aware of that. Then you have the other issue is, the two angels, Harut and Marut. Who are they? Why were they sent with this? Is it possible for angels? There's lots of stories and opinions. There's some false stories that, found in weak narrations or fabricated, not weak, fabricated narrations, that these two angels, there's a long story They were looking down on human beings, and then they said, how could they disobey Allah? They were kind of being arrogant and things like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you had the same free will, you wouldn't last a day on earth in terms of obedience and disobedience. You would also fall into sin like human beings. Anyway, it's a long story. Then these two angels were sent down and they failed the test, and this was their punishment. It's a long story, it's fabricated anyway, it's not true. But the vast majority of Mufassirun, some people, there's very kind of minority opinions that they weren't angels, but in the Qur'an it clearly says Malakain, two angels. But there's another reading, Malikain, not angels but kings, two kings or princes. But the vast majority opinion is these were two angels sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Vast majority say they were sent with sihr, magic, or instructions of where to learn magic, but they were only sent as a test. And they made it clear. They were not disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were sent as part of a trial, tribulation, in Allah's plans, under His command. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent them as a test for the people. And that's why in the Qur'an, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that they said to people, وَمَا يُعَلِّمَانِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ حَتَّى يَقُولَ إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. They made it absolutely clear that they would not teach anyone until they said that, beware, we are a trial, we are a test, we are a tribulation, a fitna. So, and then they would make it clear what is the result. If you learn this, if you disobey, the result is kufr. That's why they said, فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. Meaning, do not commit kufr, do not leave the deen by learning this magic. So they made it very clear that they were a test and a tribulation to the people. One of the narrations mentioned in the Tafsir, Ibn Kathir, he narrates with a chain to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. He said that when someone came to the angels to learn magic, the angels would discourage them and say to him, we are only a test, so do not fall into disbelief. They had knowledge of what is good and evil and what constitutes belief or disbelief. And they thus knew that magic is a form of disbelief, meaning the angels. When the person who came to learn magic still insisted on learning, they commanded him to go to such and such a place, where if he went, shaitan would meet him and teach him magic. So in this version, the angels aren't teaching magic themselves. They're saying, if you still want to commit kufr, if you're not obeying us, you're not obeying our command as a warning, you're still insisting you want to go, then you can go to this place and shaitan would meet him and teach him magic. When this person would learn magic, the light of Iman would depart from him. You would see, a light rising up, and he would see it shining and flying away in the sky. He would then proclaim, oh my sorrow, woe unto me, what should I do? Al-Hasan al-Basri said this ayah means the angels were sent with magic so that the people whom Allah willed would be tried and tested. Allah made them promise that they would not teach anyone until first proclaiming, we are a test for you. Do not fall into disbelief. So, this is what the narrations are saying, that the two angels came. They did teach magic, either by directing them where they could go and learn, or by teaching them according to some themselves. But there's another one, when the man would ignore their advice, they would say, go to that pile of ashes and urinate on it. When he would urinate on it, on the ashes, the light of faith would depart from his body and would shine until it entered heaven. Then something black that appeared to be smoke would descend and enter his ears and the rest of his body. And this is Allah's anger. When he told the angels what happened, they would teach him magic. So in this way, whichever way it happened, it's clear that the two angels were sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a test, as a tribulation. And they were not disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was a clear test. But they warned people very clearly. What is another issue on this issue of sihr is the ruling. What is the ruling of the one who is practicing sihr? In a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that من أتى كاهنا أو ساحرا فصدقه بما يقول فقد كفر بما أنزل على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. And there's other hadith similar to that, sahih hadith that support this, that whoever comes to a kahin, a soothsayer, or sahir, a sorcerer, and believed in what he said, will have disbelieved in what Allah revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So it's very clear, and this is the opinion of the vast majority of the scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that whoever believes in magic, whoever practices it, whoever learns it, whoever buys it, sells it, etc., they have committed an act of kufr. It's very clear. They've left the deen. So here we need to reflect, as I mentioned last week, that one of the problems, because yes, we can read about these magic and what happened there, but how do we relate it to our situation? What is the reality in our communities? The reality is, unfortunately, there are people practicing magic. This is a fact. There are people practicing sihr. That is number one. There are individuals who, whether they know it or not, whether they actually know sihr properly, or whether they've learned a little bit of it or whatever, but they claim to know it, and they claim that it works and it has the powers that they claim it has. And they charge people for this. Now, in our community, unfortunately, hopefully in the next generation this is less, I don't know, but in the older generation, and especially back home, but even in this country, there are many people who go to these people. Obviously they don't advertise themselves as, I'm a sahir, I'm a magician, come to me. No, they'll advertise themselves as an alim, a peer, whatever, a raqi, someone who can solve your problems, someone who's going to use dua and writing down ta'weez and things like that. They will say we can get rid of jinn problems. But all of these things, hiding behind it is what? A magician, sahir, using sihr, using kufr, going against the deen, connecting with shaitan, connecting with the jinn, making you a part of his kufr. So this is very, very dangerous. And whoever we know amongst our relatives or friends or people in the community, we must warn people against this. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people do it unknowingly. But a lot of people think these guys are good. They're using something from maybe Qur'an or some du'as, but they're not. They're using magic. Especially when it comes to ruqyah. Especially when it comes to ruqyah, we don't know what they're using. We don't know what they're doing with the jinns. There are a lot of people who go against the Qur'an and Sunnah. Although there are, a lot of new raqis who try and adhere to Quranic and Quran and Sunnah and methods that are Sharia compliant, if you like. They stick to that. They're definitely not magicians. But beware of, especially, look, someone who claims knowledge or someone who claims to be able to help you. Check, first of all, do they have any knowledge of Islam? A lot of these people are ignorant. They don't know anything about Islam. They don't know anything about Sharia. They don't know fiqh. They haven't studied. They haven't graduated from anywhere. They haven't had any teachers. So first of all, look at the ignorance. Are they educated?